The studio of The View thrummed with a restless, electric anticipation that even the crew couldn't fully explain. It wasn't unusual for the audience to be lively. After all, the show relied on the dynamic energy between panelists and guests, but today there was an undeniable tension in the air, something coiled and waiting just beneath the surface. Audience members filed into their seats with chatter and laughter, unaware of the subtle shift unfolding behind the scenes. On stage, veteran host Joy Behar sat at the curved panel desk, her reading glasses perched halfway down her nose as she scanned the morning's prep cards. Her expression was sharp, focused, carrying that unmistakable Joy Behar spark that producers either loved or feared depending on the day. Today, they feared it. She wasn't angry, not yet, but she was alert, keyed up, running her thumb along the edge of the cards in a rhythmic flick that gave away her agitation. "Do you want to skip the last question?" a producer whispered from behind a camera. Joy didn't look up. "No." That was all she said. The producer stiffened, adjusted her headset, and backed away like someone retreating from a fire that hadn't fully ignited but was certainly heating up. Joy's co-hosts exchanged small, uneasy glances, some amused, some nervous, some resigned. This wasn't the first time Joy showed up ready for battle, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. But the guest scheduled for today's live show was unpredictable in a way that didn't quite match the usual View energy. Behind the stage curtain, standing just out of sight, actor Johnny Depp waited quietly, hands tucked into the pockets of his tailored vest. He leaned against a lighting pillar, one boot crossed casually over the other, listening to the muffled hum of the audience. He'd been doing press for years, decades even. Interviews, junkets, red carpets, none of it fazed him. But something about stepping onto The View always required a different kind of focus. It was a table of strong personalities, and he respected that dynamic even when it came at him full force. A stagehand holding a clipboard approached. "We'll introduce you right after the first segment wraps. About 2 minutes." Johnny nodded, offering a polite smile. "Sounds good." But even he sensed the strange tension quivering faintly through the curtain. He'd done enough acting to recognize when a stage was primed for conflict, and this one felt moments away from sparking. He wasn't worried, conflict never scared him, but he was aware of the fragility in the air, like stepping onto a frozen lake unsure which step might crack it. The stage manager's countdown echoed through the speakers, "We're live in 10, 9, 8. The audience cheered as the theme music kicked up, bright and upbeat. Cameras zoomed in, and the hosts launched into the familiar rhythm of the show, a quick sweep of pop culture headlines, a debate about politics, a moment of laughter over a silly viral video. Joy participated, but she wasn't fully engaged. Her attention kept drifting to the side of the stage where the curtain swayed gently. She didn't need to see Johnny to know he was there, waiting, listening, readying himself. Finally, after 15 long minutes of banter, the floor manager signaled the upcoming guest segment. Joy sat up straighter. "And now," the announcer boomed over the speakers, "please welcome the legendary Johnny Depp." Applause burst across the studio like a wave. The curtain parted, and Johnny stepped out with a soft half-smile, bracelets clinking loosely around his wrist. He gave the audience a small wave before moving toward the panel. Joy clapped along with everyone else, though her applause was tighter, more measured, clearly not the spontaneous kind. Johnny took his seat at the far end of the curved table, greeting each co-host with a handshake and a warm nod. When Joy extended her hand, he shook it with polite gentleness, his expression unreadable but cordial. "It's good to see you," Joy said with a practiced smile. "You as well," Johnny replied, settling comfortably into his chair. The first few minutes unfolded smoothly. The panel asked about his latest film, a quirky character he'd crafted, his creative process. Johnny responded with his trademark soft-spoken humor, charming enough that several audience members swooned dramatically every time he smiled. Joy remained composed, even relaxed, though she kept one eye on her stack of cards. Johnny told a story about filming on location, something about faulty props, unpredictable weather, and improvising lines on the spot. The audience laughed loudly. Even Joy cracked a genuine smile. But beneath the laughter, tension simmered. One of the co-hosts threw him an easy question about his artistic inspirations, and Johnny answered thoughtfully, gesturing with loose, fluid movements. Joy listened intently, her expression unreadable, though the line between her brows tightened gradually. She waited. She always waited for the right moment. After another burst of studio laughter, Joy lifted a card from her stack, holding it lightly between her fingers. Johnny noticed the motion. It was slight, but his posture shifted, alert, attentive. The audience, clapping at the end of the last answer, slowly quieted as Joy prepared to speak. "So, Johnny," she began in a tone that was subtle but edged, "you've been in plenty of headlines over the past year. Some of them, not exactly flattering." The audience went silent. A producer froze mid-step. Johnny blinked once, slowly. Joy continued. "And I think a lot of people, our viewers especially, are wondering if all that drama has changed how you see yourself or your work." It was the kind of question that didn't just poke, it pressed, hard. Johnny's jaw tightened just slightly, but his face stayed calm. "That's a loaded question, Joy." She didn't even blink. "They tend to be." Some audience members chuckled nervously. Johnny leaned back a little, crossing one ankle over his knee. "I'd say people see what they want to see," he said neutrally. "Media tends to embellish." Joy tapped her card on the desk. "So you're saying nothing in those stories has merit?" Co-hosts exchanged alarmed glances. The audience inhaled sharply, waiting. Johnny met Joy's gaze directly. "I'm saying not everything needs to be turned into a spectacle." Joy narrowed her eyes. "Well, perhaps some things become a spectacle because certain people create the conditions for it." A murmur rippled across the room. Johnny tilted his head. "You saying that to me, or about me?" Joy's lips tightened with that familiar spark, part challenge, part irritation, part something she didn't feel like hiding. The moment the studio lights dimmed to signal the commercial break, the tension that had been simmering beneath the surface roared to life. What had been a charged interview seconds earlier now felt like a fuse burning straight toward an explosion. Crew members stepped out from behind cameras, producers rushed toward the panel with urgent, hushed voices. Audience members shifted forward, whispering frantically, trying to decipher what they had just witnessed. At the center of it all, Joy Behar planted both hands on the desk and leaned forward, breathing hard through her nose. She wasn't shouting. Joy almost never needed to shout, but her silence was louder than a scream. Her co-hosts watched her carefully, unsure whether to intervene or stay absolutely still. Across from her, standing calmly and adjusting one of his rings, was Johnny Depp. His expression wasn't angry, exactly, but something sharper lingered there, offended dignity, wounded pride, and the faint flicker of exhaustion from having his personal life dragged out again on live television. Even so, he carried himself with a deliberate stillness that seemed to provoke Joy even more. A producer approached Joy cautiously. "We can cut the question from the broadcast," she whispered. "We can clean around it. We just need to restart the segment." Joy didn't sit. Didn't blink. "Restart," she repeated, voice slicing through the quiet. "Restart? After that?" She gestured toward Johnny with a sharp flick of her hand. Johnny held up a palm, as if signaling he wasn't interested in escalating things, but the calmness only made Joy's frustration rise. "Look," he said quietly, "I didn't come here to fight. You asked a question, an unfair one, and I answered it." "Unfair?" Joy shot back, straightening fully. "You think accountability is unfair?" "It's not accountability when you already made up the ending to the story," he replied. Her co-hosts winced. One of them whispered, "Oh boy," under her breath. Joy stepped away from the desk, pacing once to the side, then pivoting sharply back toward him. You don't get to come on this show and tell me I'm being dishonest.